All right, our next step is to add the terrain. So for this, I actually added something called the PDG desert scene from Side Effects, and it's a really good environment to actually add your effects to. If you're doing anything that has to do with sand or just testing things, I highly recommend it. It's a really great setup. So as you can see here, I have like a couple of things in the background, and I want to focus, for example, on something like this and make it the center of my piece. So if I just take this level and make it the center, as in uh, this is where my camera is going to be, and this is where we have everything. Okay, so first let's hide the other environment or landscape. We don't need that. All right, so now looking at this from my perspective, I look at it as it is a bit boring. It doesn't have any movement. It doesn't have any life. Like the only thing that's actually moving is the clouds. Even that doesn't really give me any information. So to make this interesting, we did the Sandstorm shader. Now let's add the supporting elements to this. So let's say, for example, when you see a shader like that, for example, you'll see that it needs to have wind, it needs to affect the world, it needs to kick up dust or sand or anything around it. So two elements are going to be added in here, which is a particle system to support the fact that there is wind, and an addition to the terrain shader to make it so it looks like it's going in a direction of the wind, right? So if I was working with a tech artist, I would actually add that their job would be to help me set up like a wind direction, and I would set up how the logic work where, for example, the shader would work with the wind direction, the particles would work with the wind direction, and so on. But for this one, I'm just gonna do it in the shader itself, so it will save us both a lot of headaches. Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna go into the terrain material, and let's see, terrain. Okay, so here you see that we have our output, which is the terrain material. So I'm gonna disconnect all of these here and add a little bit of things to it. So one thing you can do here, if you don't want to change anything in here and you want to keep it the same way, right? You just want to add to it. There's something called material attributes. So if you do material, I think it was make material attributes. So here you see that you have material attributes that resembles the output material. And what this does, this allows you to have like two different material attributes and blend them together into the output. So let's add this into the roughness, or was it the normal? I think it was the normal. Normal, roughness, and base color. Okay, I'm just gonna go back to see because I kind of forgot. Okay, so I was right. So if I do make material, so just grab this one, grab the roughness, and the normal. So if I view this, it basically has the same results. Like the output of this is the same exact thing as this, except if I add another one, for example, I just hit Control D to duplicate, and then added, let's say, for example, a texture. But if you hold T and left click, you'll have the texture sampler. And I just did this in the base material and just picked, let's see. Actually, I'm just going to pick this. Or, actually, I'm going to pick the cloud one that we did. Perfect. So if I view the node, this is my result. So Now here's the thing. The same thing as the shader, I'm gonna add my other logic to it. So, or the other node. We need a parameter for it to move. We need a text coordinate. We need two constant parameters, an append, and vector. We need a multiply, and another. I'm just gonna copy this, put it to the speed, and to here. So what I'm gonna call these, this one will be wind underscore tiling x, and the other one will be y. And this one will be wind underscore speed underscore x. Oops, this one will be y. And the same thing for this. Okay, so part of the reason I didn't go over this particular one pretty quickly is because I already did in the first shader. Right, so now that we have these two materials, not materials, sorry, these two parameters, now I can just blend them. So there is a blend material attributes. So this will allow you to blend these two together using a scalar parameter. And I'm gonna call this wind underscore blend. Okay, so here there is another way to do this, but well, not another way to do this. But if you ask why did I not use a lerp, it's because you can't use a lerp with these. So one more thing is you need to have a use material attribute checked for this to work. And if you add it together, now you'll see that it works. If I do 0.5, so now 50% of the material is applied here. Okay. Knowing that this is gonna be also projected on sand, I need to change the color. So I'm gonna multiply it, the base, and make a color. Got a parameter, call this color underscore wind, and just change the wind. Take the alpha into opacity. Wait a minute, let's try this. Because this might not actually have an alpha, does it? Yeah, it does not. Oh wait, it doesn't even have the other channels. That's fine. I'll just do this. Okay. So now if I actually move this in, let's say, the y-axis, and save this, now you can see that it actually projected to the terrain. So this is a little bit too much for this. So I'm gonna just go into the material instance for the actual terrain. Oops. Save this. Go to the material instance. And actually, let's do this. Group them all together. Call this wind. And save. And under the wind, you will see all of it. Okay, I'm gonna save this, look at it in the world. Okay, so this is gonna be too small, so I'm gonna decrease the tiling till I get a good result for this. Okay, I'm just gonna come back in here, convert this into a parameter, call it wind underscore text, and save. Part of the reason I did this is I have a lot of noises, like noise textures and things like that, so I can pick from. I'm just gonna choose one that looks good. Okay, for now I'm just gonna trying to get like a good speed slash look for this. I mean, this doesn't look bad. Okay, let's try this. Awesome. This looks nice. Actually, maybe let's try to do 2. And increase the speed by another. Perfect. So for now, I'll leave it at this. I will change things around just so I can see if things change or like the speed is different between everything. But for now, I think this looks good as far as movement. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So now that I have that set, we have it going in this direction. Now, the next thing that I want to take a look at is the cloud. Technically, they're just there, and they're not going in the direction of the wind, technically. They're going to this direction. So let's see what we can do to that. And, okay, that's the sky dome. To atmosphere. Volumetric clouds. Okay. In the volumetric clouds, you'll see there's a wind vector. And if you, for example, increase it, you'll see that it will go in a certain direction. And the direction I want it to go in is to the left. So let's set that to 50. Perfect. And I want to change its color. Okay. And this. No, that's too much. Keep it the same. Okay. So now I have the 2 elements that I want. The third one that I want to add in here, plus the wind, is the fog. So part of the reason I want to add the fog is because when you're in a storm, or when you're in a desert storm, or any storm in general, you sometimes can't even see like 2 feet in front of you. And I want to give that feeling, that sense of like, oh crap, like this is really bad. So let's try and change the fog. Let's see. So let's change the color. Let's see, a bit on the yellowish. Okay. Actually, let's try. No, I think that's too much. Let's try this one for now. Okay, I'm gonna increase the fog density to 5. Oh, that's too much. 4, 2, 1, and the fall off. Actually, let's do 5 and fall off of 1, 2. Okay, perfect. So now I have my fall off. There we go. And let's do a little bit of height fall off. Like for me right now, I just want this to be like an absolute mess when it comes to like the feeling of wind, the feel of everything getting kicked up. Okay. I think that's nice. Let's keep that for now. Yeah, let's do that. I'm gonna keep it this way. I'm just taking a look at this. All right, perfect. Okay, next step is the light. Let's see if we can change that a little bit. So I'm just gonna change the color. And I think I'm just gonna keep it the same, to be honest. I don't think I need to add anything else to it. Yeah, I'm just gonna change the color of it, because now everything else has that same color. Maybe I actually maybe will change the fog, because that needs to match a bit more. So okay. Nope, too much. Okay. So now that I've added these two in here, you'll see that the ground one kind of disappeared, and I want to bring it back. So let's go into here, and let's see if I change the blend of it a little bit. Hierarchy. So if I go to the blend, where are you? Oh, here we go. And change that to try 0.4. Okay. Okay, I see that. All right. So yeah, I tend to try and choose a lot of numbers just so I can see like what the difference is. Okay, so now that we have all of this together, the next thing I'm gonna do is add my blueprints that I did. Oh, not blueprint actually. Sorry, it was a material and I added to it was the mesh. But for that, I'm actually going to make a blueprint class and do that inside it because I don't want this to be just in the level. So I'm going to call this sand underscore wind. Okay. You go in here, add a sphere, and just find the camera shader, which is this one, and just add it in here. Make sure that it's in the right orientation. So -90. And let's add it into the scene. It did not add it. That's weird. Oh, dull. Sorry, I added the actual material. That was yeah, that was funny. Okay. So that is in the wrong, say 90 and 90. Here we go. Now that's in the right orientation. Okay, that is way too much. So to fix that, now I'm gonna actually start changing things. So let's go to the wind, sand, material, and then I'm gonna start slowly changing things just so everything gets blended together, and I don't want anything to overpower anything else. So let's start with, let's see. Let's start with the sand. Set that to 1. Okay. Set this one to 0.5 and this one to 0.6. Okay. Doesn't seem so bad. Okay. So now that I did this to it, I'm going to go back into the fog because now that I've added my shader into it, this is going to be an extra layer. So now I can't see anything else. So I want to change things in there too. So let's see. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go back into the material instance. And let's try to add a bit more color in there. Okay. Right, so let's tile the sand a little bit more. Let's try 10 and 0.5. Actually, 1 should be fine. It looks much better. Okay. So from this point on, it's basically just adding things and tweaking things. So I'm just going to add one more thing to this to give it that extra level of polish, which is going to be a particle system. And I'm going to place them here around this, just so it shows that there is something being kicked up in the wind, and that's how you're getting the sand in the air and so on. So let's go to the particle system folder and create our Niagara system. select from no emitters and the fountain emitter. Would be perfect for this as it's continuously spawn and it's looping. So let's call this ps underscore sand and save this one. Okay, so for the material, there is one thing I'm gonna add in here. I'm gonna use two previous textures that I've already made, and one would be the mist texture, and the other one would be the motes texture from the motes tutorials. And I'm gonna add these in here and save them. And part of the reason I'm using those two textures is because combining both of them gives me the illusion of the mist or the smoke being a bit more sandish. Like it would have the sand particles in there. And I'll explain how to do that in a second. So I'm going to create the material, call this m underscore sand, and dive in here. I'm going to add the textures to this. Okay. So part of the reason I didn't use the other texture, like the sand texture for it, and I will actually go through it too, is two things. When this goes into the engine or the particle system, it gets compressed into one single frame. I say compressed, but the tiling of it gets to one single frame. So when you look at it in terms of just tiling textures, and we set this up like 0.05 and 0.05. Okay, let's make this into 0.1 or 1.5 by 0.15. Start previewing. You'll see that this is like the one frame that you're gonna get. And this is how you do, like, for example, 8x8 and so on. So part of the reason I'm doing it this way is because if I add this on top of it, the problem with this one is because it is tiling, this is the issue that is going to cause me. If I take this, for example, and add it into the particle system, that's the effect that I'm going to get. And that's not what I'm looking for. I can, for example, do a radial gradient, like something like this. Radial gradient exponential, and then multiply it with it to create that effect. But I don't want to do that because I already have a texture that already does that for me. And let's say I add this to it. This is the results that I'm going to get. At least for this one, I know that there isn't a possibility of it leaking or there would be a bug or anything like that. Okay, so now that I've had these two textures added, I'm gonna do a text coordinate for the modes texture and set it up to be 8x8, following the actual 8 rows and 8 columns by the looping smoke. And you'll see that it just repeated on all of them. And that's what I'm looking for. Okay, so now let's do a multiply and another multiply with a particle color, because I want to change the color of these particles inside the engine. So let's change it to this, and we have this one here and the alpha for this, and we do a depth fade. And let's set this to 250. We put this into the opacity and the color. Change this to translucent, and voila, you have your texture. Make sure it's double-sided and save it. And let's take this into the particle system. So if we go into here, particle system, all right. So let's change this into m underscore sand. And that's the material that we're gonna get. First off, you can remove the shape and the velocity for now. You know what? Let me bring it back and just turn it off. And now you'll see that they're just falling. Kill the gravity and the drag. And you'll see it here. Okay, let's go into the sub UV. Change this into 8 by 8. So you'd have your particles. Set this to blended. Let's see, what's next? All right, let's set this to like 5 for now. And okay, so part of the reason I'm setting the spawn rate to 5 is because for now, I just want it to be set at a low emission rate. And what I did with the sub image, this is where you can change it from being a columns and rows to a just one frame that it can be played as an animation. So to play that animation, you go to the particle spawn and you add a sub UV animation. So now if we change this into a render sprite, actually I might need to do it in the update. Yeah, in the update. So if you change and if you add this sub UV animation into the update, here you can see that it's actually moving and having the frames play from top to bottom. So that looks nice for me for now. I'll leave that the way it is. Let's see. Let's add some wind in the particle update. Wind force. And let's see what's wrong. Fix issue. Perfect. Okay. So if we add this into the level, let's see what it will look like. Okay, a couple of things. It's going in the wrong direction. 2, it's really small and the color is not right. Okay. So let's zero out. So because like this is something that is in the world, this is how I tend to change my values on everything. So let's see. If I go into the initial size particle, if you go into the sprite size mode, this is where you can change the size for the whole. This would change the size for the actual emitter, and then you add another size module to change it over its lifetime. So let's say, for example, I have 50 by 50. So this is what I would get. It slowly starts to increase. Let's say I want it to be uniform, like everything will have the same size, and just have it to be super big. Okay, so for now, that looks all right. Next, let's add the, let's do 1800. Next, let's change the wind direction to Y and see how far do I need to add it. So it's going to be in the negative. Okay, that's too much. Okay. So one thing that's bothering me about this, that it is just popping into existence. So to fix that, you go to the color scale or scale color, and if you take uh, the first one here into 0, you'll see that it disappeared because this controls the alpha. So if I add another key in there and then just put this at 0.5 to have it at the center and then set its value to 1, you'll see that it's spawning fadily, like it fades in and out. Okay, so the next thing is I want to add a size. Let's see, scale sprite size. So what this does, it actually makes it like it changes its size over its lifetime. So let's say, for example, I wanted to start at 1, and basically, let's see. When you set this to 1, for example, right? You have your when this is set to 1, the original size that you set here, that's the thing that's going to take, right? Anything above 1, it will be bigger than this, and its overall size. But if you add it in a curve, it will be something like this, for example. So starts off as the original size and it ends at the original size. So let's say, for example, if we take it up. So you see when it starts at the original size and slowly gets back into a bigger size. So let's pick both of these, change it into an auto. And this is how I would set this up, because I wanted to keep its original size for a little bit more and then takes off. Okay, that doesn't seem so bad. Maybe if I add it into here. No, let's add it here. Okay. So next, let's change the color. So if you go to the initialize particle and go to color, and here is where you can change it. And part of the reason you can actually change it here is because we set a particle color in the shader. So let's see how this would look like. Like what I'm trying to do here is just make sure that it's at a good color that matches everything around it. That doesn't seem to be bad. Okay, now I'm just going to make another copy of it and put it here next to it. All right. Let's see. Wind force, and just add a little bit to the y-axis and the x-axis. Perfect. Okay, save this. Okay, now that's everything together. All right, now that we get to this point, let's see if we can edit everything all together to try and get a better result than this. Okay, first off, I'm just gonna check if I can make the density better. So make it, let's see if we can put it to 0.25. Get the fog density down a bit. 0.2. Actually, this looks really nice. 0.3. Yeah, this 0.5 looks nice. I'm just gonna mess with the color a little bit. Perfect. So now you can see there is a little bit to the clouds, a little bit to the distance, and that's exactly what I want. Because like if I take this down even more, it's not going to be beneficial for me. So I still want to see a little bit of detail in the background. So for example, if I turn off, for example, sand and I turn off the blueprints, I still see that there are things moving around in the level, and that's not the only thing that I'm counting on to give me that effect. So let's go into the sphere. And again, when you're doing something like this in the industry or anywhere where you work, you're gonna have a lot of time to iterate and a lot of feedback, right? So for me, when I'm like doing my feedback and like what I'm iterating on things, it might look like I'm just doing it out of a whim, but to be honest, like it's the experience, the years, and knowing what you like and knowing what other people want. So yeah. So generally, I like my scenes to be a bit darker, a bit. When it comes to sand, for example, I want it to be on the color to be like you're in an orangish world. That's how I would imagine like being a sandstorm and so on. I think if you look at Battlefield 1, they gave that sense really good. So let's see. Let's change the color a little bit. I think just something like this. Perfect. So other than that, honestly, I don't think I need to change anything else. It looks good and it doesn't have any issues from what I can see. So yeah. Let's see, full frame. But yeah, this is how you set up a sandstorm. Thank you so much for watching.